if you can put your phones on off or airplane mode now, that would be great as well. And if, obviously, if we're in meditation, try to be quiet. Thank you. Oh, and another thing, if you like what you see, or you have comments or suggestions, please come see me, and I'll give you some paper, notepad, and you can leave it for us, so we know if any feedback to make the center more of what the community is looking for.
Thank you.
Do you want to introduce that?
He's going to do his own.
You're going to do your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we don't do some rules.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for coming to spend your Friday night here. And I hope that you can spend the weekend with us, because tonight, how many of you were not here for the workshop that I did here, Shamatha workshop last March? Okay, good. Well, this is, I'm really glad that you're here tonight, because this is going to be a recap of that whole workshop this evening in preparation for tomorrow and Sunday. Because what we're doing this weekend, so I guess I'm not doing much of an introduction of myself. I have been meditating for 23 years, and I actually started these shamatha practices, or became very interested in shamatha also when I started studying Lam Rim with Lama Zopa 23 years ago at Kopan Monastery. Then for a long time, Lam Rim for 6 years was my only practice, and these shamatha practices were part of that. Or not these shamatha practices, but shamatha practices. And then I studied with Geshe Michael Roach and Lama Christy McNally at Diamond Mountain for 10 years. Closely was living there and helping to build Diamond Mountain. And then for the last, ever since the Great Retreat started, I left and have been traveling ever since. So for 2 years and 6 months or something now, I have been traveling and teaching really in Europe, largely North America, both the West and East Coasts, and Asia also. So these practices of shamatha that I discovered this system of approaching shamatha, and I'll talk more about what that actually means, about 2 years ago when I was doing research for another book that I'm working on, my second book. And so discovered this approach from Alan Wallace while I was interested in his theories of consciousness and his comparison of scientific approaches and the Buddhist approach of understanding consciousness. So I had read his first book on shamatha many, many years ago, so 23 years ago. That was the book that I read, because he had written a book based on his experience, which was all out of the Gelugpa approach of the Lam Rim, after he did the first shamatha retreat in North America in 1976. And this approach is quite different than that, because he, ever since then, one of his teachers was the great master Trijang Rinpoche, along with the Dalai Lama. And so Trijang Rinpoche, after his first retreat, doing it Gelugpa style, according to the instructions of the Lam Rim, that you find really in the Lam Rim, and he did that under the guidance of Gen Lam Rinpa, who had already been in retreat for 35 years at that point. And he began to talk with Trijang Rinpoche about the whole approach, and Trijang Rinpoche then suggested that he go to Sri Lanka to study the Theravadan approach. And so then he studied and lived with the greatest Theravadan master in Sri Lanka. And then since then, he also has been, for 20 years, been studying Dzogchen with great masters and translating for them. So this approach then incorporates three systems, really. The Theravadan system, and then there are elements from Padmasambhava and then Dzogchen also. Both of those are part of the Nyingma system. So it's a little bit different than just the standard Lam Rim approach, but so anyway, it's a very effective. I'm really drawn to it. So first of all, shamatha then is an array of practices, an array of meditation practices that are all designed to make the mind serviceable for other meditation practices. So you could think of it as contemplative technology. And then tomorrow and Sunday, what we'll be doing is contemplative science. We'll be running experiments. So you're, first of all, really developing the telescope or microscope, and then we'll be training this we'll say telescope on the heavens and really running experiments and seeing what this contemplative technology can teach us about the world that we live in and how we create the world with every moment of perception. So you could say that the untrained mind is a multitasker, and it is multitasking between its two jobs. This is the untrained mind. The two jobs of the untrained mind are to be dull and to be flying off in distraction. And so this is, pretty much our default state. And so what we're doing with shamatha practice is we're training our mind to eliminate these two everyday default states of mind. And in the Buddhist tradition, then, this whole system of practice of training the mind is called shamatha. That's a Sanskrit term, and it's often translated as quiescence, sometimes calm abiding, or quietude, but I'll use the term quiescence. No, I'll be using the term shamatha mostly. But that's what it, when you run into those terms, quiescence, calm abiding, it's referring to this genre of practices. And this group of practices called shamatha is a progression of meditation practices that are all about training the mind to have two qualities, and that is stability and clarity, and then eventually stability and vividness. And so the entire meditation path of shamatha is all about that, developing stability and clarity at first. And this is, you can think of that as, because I said that the default state of mind is oscillating continually between dullness and excitation. And so stability is, you could think of as the absence of excitation, and you could think of clarity as the absence of dullness. And from the point of view of someone who has accomplished shamatha or has accomplished some degree of shamatha, we all have been training ourselves and are actively cultivating a state of attention deficit disorder. And I think when I was here last time, and I really have developed that harangue a lot more in subsequent workshops, the harangue about multitasking, but I'll spare you that tonight because we don't have time. But it's a very serious problem, and I've been writing about that also. And you can see a piece in Awakening Journal, the last issue of Awakening Journal that it published about what the research is beginning to show about our current, our attention deficit that our culture is training us. And it's multitasking that is the issue, and it's a serious, serious problem, and one that I think is every bit as serious and underreported and potentially as pernicious as global warming in our physical ecosystem. So you could say that the untrained mind then is like a mind before we begin to read. So it's and just as when you learn to read, then that's, you could think of as technology also. And then once you learn to read, you can decide what you're going to do with it. So once you learn to read, you can either read the back of a cereal box or you can read quantum field theory. You know, but it's the ability to read gives you the choice about what you're going to do then with this new skill that you have. And so shamatha is like that also. Once you develop the ability to have a stable and clear state of mind, you can then bring that skill to anything that you do. And anything that you do with with mindfulness, with a stable, clear mind, is going to be enhanced. And everything that you do with a distracted or dull mind is going to be the opposite of enhanced. It's going to be yeah, it's going to be compromised. You won't be seeing the full potential of it, and you'll be, over the course of the weekend, we'll be describing exactly what that compromised state really is like, what the experience of that is. So you can, shamatha practice doesn't require adopting any belief system. It doesn't require taking a pledge of allegiance, taking refuge vows, or anything like that. Anybody can do these practices and benefit greatly from them. So you hear a lot about mindfulness in culture these days. And so mindfulness is, I think, mindfulness meditation practice is the new yoga. And 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, my prediction is that there'll be more people that are meditating than there are doing yoga. So there are 8 million people doing yoga now in North America of some sort. And my contention is that about 7 million of those, or probably 7.5 million of those, are doing it for health benefits or fitness or whatever, but they're not doing it for the reasons that people went to India 20 years ago to study with Pattabhi Jois, or that we may be, the yoga that you are getting here at Mahasukha, is different. And people that come to these classes that Rebecca and so are teaching are coming for different reasons, perhaps, than the other 7.5 million. So there'll be, when all of you meditation teachers, 5 years from now, your classes will be full, and half of the people will be coming there with a doctor's prescription, I swear. Because the health benefits, there's something new in the popular media or major media markets every week about the health benefits of meditation, and especially, mindfulness meditation and compassion meditation also, for all kinds of things, from hypertension to recovery from heart disease and all of that. And one of them, and the reason that I think that, so this is something, somebody should write about this, and then maybe it'll be me, because this is a big story. A couple of months ago I saw a piece, so I was doing research for something else I was writing about meditation. And so I was doing research on the website of the National Institute of Health and came across a global study that was a survey of all of the research on meditation and health of the last 10 years. And one of the most interesting things that I saw was that mindfulness meditation was so there's this phenomena called cortical thinning, where especially in the prefrontal cortex, as we grow older, there's just a thinning of brain mass, especially in the prefrontal cortex. And that cortical thinning is associated with memory loss and onset of perhaps dementia and all of that. And then I saw another piece a couple of months after that, so this was very recent, that in the United States now, more money is spent in our healthcare system on the treatment of dementia than on heart disease or on cancer. So it's the number one category of healthcare spending. Okay? So you have those two basic facts. Cortical thinning is associated with dementia, and we're spending more money. This is, a big thing for government and insurance industry policymakers, right? So what this NIH study said, the only thing in all of medical literature known to not only slow the rate of cortical thinning with aging, not only to stop it in its tracks, but actually to promote cortical thickening was mindfulness meditation. So when the word gets out, when insurance companies and the people who are making healthcare policy find out about that, they're going to say the way that we can reduce this sector, spending in this sector, is to send everybody to your meditation class. So people will be showing up with a doctor's prescription, I swear. But so the reason that this practice of shamatha has been around for 2,500 years, though, is not because of its health benefits. It's because that this is the absolute foundation for all other meditation practices. And that you're basically what all of the masters have been saying since the Buddha is that work on this first. So for instance, Master Shantideva in Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which I know that you all have been studying now for a year, something. Okay. Quote, "The omniscient one declared as useless all recitation and austerities that are done with a distracted or dull mind, even if practiced for a long time." So you're wasting your time if you have not achieved stability and clarity in your meditation, is what he's saying. And then volume 3 of Liberation Thrust into the Palm of Our Hands by Pabanka Rinpoche says, quote, and this is in the quiescence section, "Without quiescence, practitioners would not be able to generate any of the great realizations that are gained by meditation, such as the realization of emptiness that is taught in the Sutrayana tradition, or the realizations of the generation and completion stages that are taught in the Tantrayana tradition." So, and it's, on and on. I could spend the rest of the night just quoting sources of everybody that you hold near and dear that is telling you you need quiescence, you need shamatha in order for any of this other stuff to work. So if you take that seriously then, and this is why when I read this for the first time, with my first time through the Lam Rim 23 years ago, and that's when I started getting obsessed with quiescence and developing single-pointed concentration. And then there just wasn't much available except the instructions of the Lam Rim. But now, luckily, it's developed quite nicely so that we have, I think, better tools right now. And as Je Tsongkhapa put it in the Lam Rim Chenmo, paraphrasing slightly, but this is paraphrased by the person who translated that section of the Lam Rim Chenmo. Until you develop shamatha, you don't have a mind, your mind has you. So right now then, I'd like to just do a brief meditation right where you are without any instruction whatsoever, except to pay attention to what's going on, and we'll get some baseline data to answer that question that Je Tsongkhapa really is posing to us. Do we have a mind, or does our mind have us? So this will just be 3 minutes. So this weekend we'll have more opportunity to discuss these experiences that you are having during the meditations. But one of the things that you may have noticed during this 3 minutes is, first of all, how long 3 minutes really is. And hi there. Come on up front if you like.
This is great.
Yeah? Okay. And this is going to become important for when we really have a chance to talk more about establishing a daily practice, because you can really make very good use of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes doing shamatha meditation. And so that becomes a very important way that you begin to use shamatha practice throughout your day. Another thing that you may have noticed is just how our moment-to-moment experience is dominated by verbal chatter. You know, it's as if there's a narrator in our head who is narrating our experience to us. And what this narrator is telling us, largely, the stories that the narrator is telling us, is stories of the past or the future. You know, it's either obsessing about something that happened to us in the past or something that we would like to happen in the future. So this then, when you really begin to try to develop quiescence, it's helpful to just see what's really going on. And this is what you very likely are going to discover, is just how lingual or verbal our moment-to-moment experience is, and how that is really taking us away from our present moment of what the world is presenting to us. So in order to develop stability and clarity in our meditation, then we need to do something. We need to deal with this narrator, with the verbal chatter. We need to still it somehow. So stillness of mind, you're going to discover, is a stillness of that narrator's voice. So to do that, to still this narrator's voice and to deal with the world moment to moment as it's presenting itself to us, we need to develop a strategy, or we need to have a strategy for doing that, for stilling this narrator's voice. And the strategy that we're going to adopt is one that is based on two fundamental facts of the mind. One is that the mind can only be aware of one thing at a time. So what we are going to do is to give the mind something to focus on. What we are going to do is to choose an object to focus our attention on. And then guess what? If we are focusing our attention on a chosen object, we won't have the mental chatter, because the mental chatter won't have a chance. The corollary of that is the second fact, is that the untrained mind, and I have to really emphasize that, the untrained mind abhors a vacuum. And so as soon as you lose your chosen object, then guess what? In rushes the chattering mind again, because there's a vacuum, and that is always waiting there in the wings to rush in to fill that vacuum. So what we're going to do then is do exactly that. Choose an object to focus our attention, and we're going to be using that object then to train our mind in these two qualities of stability and clarity. Mindfulness is, in the context of shamatha, the active present moment of attention focused on a chosen object. So this is, you know, I have to emphasize that in the context of shamatha. So if you have grown up in the Vipassana tradition, you may have heard different descriptions of that, but this is what Lord Buddha described as mindfulness, and all of the great commentators since then. It's not active or choiceless open awareness. It is active present moment of attention focused on a chosen object. So what you're doing is trying to anchor your attention. So this is for developing our shamatha, our ability to stay focused on an object of our choice. Mindfulness is one of the two qualities or skills that we really have to develop. And then there's a supporting player here that becomes extremely important. and will become more so. By the end of the night, you're going to become the biggest fan of this quality. And that is, Geshe Michael translates this as watchfulness, or it's also introspection. And later, it will be more accurately, you'll come to think of it more accurately as introspective awareness. So this is a quality then of the mind that you could think of like gauges on the dashboard or something. It's continually monitoring what's happening in the engine. But this is what we're monitoring now, is the quality of our mindfulness. So our watchfulness is telling us whether we are headed towards excitation or towards dullness. So I like this analogy that Geshe Michael uses of driving down a road. So while you're driving down the road, you're continually making micro adjustments to stay in your lane, going even down a straight road in Arizona or out in the Mojave Desert here, and you can see all the way to the horizon, a straight line. You still will be making micro adjustments. If you just locked the steering wheel in place, you'd end up off into one of these ditches fairly quickly, right? So you're making these micro adjustments to stay in your lane. So in this analogy then, we'll say that because here in the United States we drive in the right lane, and it's taken a little while to get used to that again. Here in this country, dullness is in the right lane, or in the right ditch, and excitation is in the left ditch. So we are continually making micro adjustments to stay out of those ditches. And watchfulness is telling us whether we have ended up in the ditch or not. So how do you develop this stability then? How do you keep your mind from wandering? How do we really go about training our mind? So you can try the strict dad approach, and that is, you kids, shut up. I'm sick and tired of hearing you guys go on and on and on. I'm trying to meditate here. So, you parents that tried that, that doesn't work. And if you were ever a child, that didn't work either. When if your strict dad ever tried that, and it doesn't work with your mind either. And so, when you think of the term concentration, what it connotes for me, and this is what I tried to do 23 years ago, was to concentrate, to develop single-pointed concentration. So concentration, when I think of that term, what I think of is, and that's what it feels like. It's like isometric exercise. So in the 1960s and 50s, there was Charles Atlas, who had this whole exercise program based on isotonics or something like that, but it was isometrics, and you're just pushing against an immovable force until your muscles start trembling, and that's what concentration sounds like to me. You are just kind of tensing your mind on an object until you just start smoking, your ears start smoking, and you always have to have a furrowed brow, right? This is the type of concentration that air traffic controllers have. They are, because they have so much at stake, keeping their focus on the screen. They have this is the highest, most stressful job in the United States. And they have a high burnout rate and ulcers and migraines and all of that. So we're not going to get very far if we try that strict dad approach. So shamatha practice, the progress, all of progress through the path of shamatha depends on balancing acts. And so this balance is a balance between relaxation and effort. And so the first thing that we have to do, the very first fundamental skill that we have to learn to learn to meditate well, is relaxation. And this is not easy, or it's not a given in this culture, because in our 2013 global consumer culture, especially, you know, when we are living in the United States and engaging with media as much as we do, it's all stimulation, 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 you know, on the hedonic treadmill. It's arousal, 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 rather than relax, relax, relax. And so we need very likely to do a little remedial relaxation as a preliminary to our meditation practice. So the Buddha actually taught, you know, when you have, when your image now, I'm trying to shatter stereotypes about meditation practice and concentration, because a lot of what you have a lot of these images are counterproductive, and you have to break these habits of association in order to make progress in shamatha. So the first is that it's just you're going to will your concentration. So the strict dad doesn't work. You need to establish a base of relaxation. The second is that you meditate in lotus position, or that, you know, you are always sitting on a cushion on the floor in what Master Swatmarama in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika said is the most important asana of all yoga asanas, which is siddhasana, you know, and that's where you have just one leg up like this, you know, and it's very stable. You can sit there for a long time, and, you know, but this is not the only meditation position. So the Buddha actually authorized and described 4 different meditation postures, or asanas. So this one, sitting position, you know, and this includes sitting on the floor on a cushion or sitting in a chair. So both of those are good, necessary positions, especially if you're doing retreat. You're going to be cycling through all of these in order to meditate for what we did in Singapore just 2 weeks ago was we hit 20 gatakas in one day. You know, 10 hours of meditation. So you need to be, you know, you're not going to be sitting on, you know, in cross-legged on the floor for 10 hours to get through this, you know, unless you're in the 3rd year of your meditation, you might, or retreat, you might. So the first is sitting. The second is, so I guess I'll talk about the order later. Walking meditation is also, the Buddha said walking meditation is very important, and there are things that you can do in walking meditation that are easier to develop in your meditation practice than sitting meditation. So it's not a break from sitting meditation, it's serious meditation, asana. The third is standing, and so this is a very important asana for especially combating coarse dullness. And this is one that in recent retreats, people have been experimenting a lot with. And even in workshops, people have been choosing to stand a lot for meditation. And it works really well for combating coarse dullness when you're really starting to fall asleep. Just meditating, doing your meditation, your shamatha practice standing works very well. So the fourth is probably the most heretical of all, and that is the supine position, shavasana. And so you may have heard meditation teachers tell you never try to meditate in shavasana because it's corpse pose. What you're doing is training yourself to dullness. So this is not true. In fact, it's absolutely necessary and essential that you learn to meditate in shavasana. So why is that? Because these 4 asana positions are, you could say, arranged in a continuum. So the most relaxed of these asanas would be, what do you think? Shavasana. You're on your back, you know, and you yoga teachers know that you often hear snoring in, when you get to that point in your class, right? It's a very relaxed position. The next, so we're describing now a continuum from relaxation to clarity. So the most relaxed asana is Shavasana. Next then, and we're moving now in the direction of clarity, would be sitting position. And then, because there's a lot of muscular tension involved in sitting, so it helps, it's less relaxed, but it helps promote clarity. Then standing position, and that's why it's such a good asana for combating coarse dullness. And then the most clear of these would be the walking meditation. So anyway, what you would do then, so you need to, because I said we're going to have to do a little remedial relaxation, right? Because the fundamental skill that you have to bring to your shamatha practice is relaxation. How do you have to relax in order to concentrate well. So we're going to then experiment a little bit with that. And do we have, I think, enough yoga mats, it looks like, where all of you now, I'd like you to just grab a mat and we're going to meditate in Shavasana so that you get an idea of how powerful this can be. So if you have a lower back pain, there was a physical therapist here in the last workshop that taught me something I've been repeating ever since. So you can put a bolster under your knees, etc. That will help to reduce lower back pain. Or you can put your feet up on one of these chairs, and that's very helpful. And then put a cushion, in fact, under your feet on the chair so that your feet are higher than your knees. And that helps to flatten your sacrum. So it makes it possible for people who generally can't do Shavasana without pain to do that. Now, we all know how to relax because we do it every night before we fall asleep. And so we have we have a habitual association of deep relaxation with dullness and falling asleep. So in order to really make progress, because relaxation is fundamental skill, we have to break that association of deep relaxation with falling asleep. So we need to develop an anomalous type of attention that only meditators and, frankly, high-performance athletes like gold medal figure skaters really know, is to get in flow, you have to be deeply relaxed and have a high degree of clarity. So we're going to begin this experimenting here with this first real balancing act, and that is balancing relaxation with clarity. So throughout the meditation, try to keep your body as still as possible. There's said to be 3 qualities when you settle the body in its natural state. And that is the quality of relaxed ease, stillness and vigilant attention. The way to really relax deeply is to focus on tactile sensations, the sense of touch. So now withdraw your attention from the sounds and experiences of this room into the domain of your body. And focus there only on the single sense field of touch, tactile sensations. Focusing first of all on that feeling of solidity and firmness where your body is contacting the floor. Your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your wrists, your hips, legs, feet. This is the earth element. Now notice the degree of clarity that you have right now, because your clarity will always be greatest at the beginning of your meditation. And we are going to try to maintain this degree of clarity while you deeply relax. Now let your attention roam throughout the body, noticing tactile sensations wherever they arise. Whether it's an itch on your scalp or some trembling of a muscle. And if you notice any tension or any pain, let your in-breath be drawn to it as if magnetically. And then release that tension or pain on the next out-breath, deepening your relaxation as if with an inaudible sigh. Deepen your relaxation with each exhalation. And focus only on tactile sensations. Give your mind a holiday and release all thoughts of the past or the future. If you notice that your attention is becoming dull and slipping towards drowsiness as you deeply relax, brighten your attention by focusing on the inhalation. You're experimenting now with this first balancing act. of breaking the habitual association of deep relaxation with drowsiness. Relax ever more deeply with each out-breath while maintaining your clarity. Relaxation is a softening, but not a release of your attention. Stay engaged with these tactile sensations wherever they are arising in the body. Give your bare attention to these tactile sensations wherever they arise. Releasing any tension or any pain. And notice the quality of the attention that you are giving these sensations. Are you taking a keen curiosity in them? So you can expand your awareness again to the room and stretch your fingers and toes. Stretch your arms overhead. Roll over to your right side and sit up. Yeah, you could just leave the mats down and throw a cushion on top of them and return to your seats then. Are there any comments about that? Yeah.
You know, one thing that I always noticed that, and I remember from your class earlier this year, I guess, that to breathe in, I remember you saying to breathe in with clarity and exhale, relax on the exhale. There always seems to be a level of rigidity that, it's like maybe from our work or what we store some stress or we store something in our body. Sometimes it seems that can't be released that quickly.
Hmm.
It's sort of residual.
Yeah, so Peter was just commenting that there's, often in just the sort of thing that we're doing now, releasing tension on the out-breath maybe isn't, you have to do that for some time, or it's maybe because a lot of us have a lot of stress or a lot of tension or pain, physical pain. And, can you release it that quickly? So we'll work on other techniques tomorrow, a full body scan, for instance, that will give you more tools about that, how to do that. The basic idea, though, is that to establish this base of relaxation, the most effective way is not to do what I was trained to do 20 more, maybe 30 years ago. One of my first meditation practices actually was self-hypnosis. And, for deep relaxation there, the idea was to focus on images. So imagine that you are at Railay Beach in Thailand under a palm tree, and the warm water, or, so the idea is actually that is not the best way to relax, but to focus strictly on tactile sensations. And then you release those, you deepen your relaxation with each out-breath. And we'll go into that a lot more. We'll be spending the rest of the night deepening our relaxation with each out-breath. But as Peter noted, we may have to do a little remedial relaxation. So it's, this is your assignment. If you are going to be a meditator and you buy this idea that relaxation is the fundamental skill that you have to start with, do what it takes. Get massage, learn yoga nidra, do yoga asana, all of these, go for walks, make lifestyle adjustments, eliminate stress, learn, relax, and do that as a preliminary to your meditation practice. And, reap all of the benefits and let everyone else around you reap the benefits of that. Yes, Lauren.
I have the opposite problem when I lie down, which is that I fall asleep. And it's great to say you have to decouple relaxation from illness. But I don't have time before I fall asleep. And the only thing I've been able to do is clamp down on the mind, or tension, or something like that. All the things that are not relaxing, they're squished up, as you said.
Yeah.
So it's using tension
Mm-hmm.
to not fall asleep.
Yeah.
Mental or physical tension.
So here Lauren just commented that when she uses the most relaxed asana of the four, she's starting from a point just the opposite of where Peter was describing. Peter was saying that, supine position, shavasana, is not relaxed enough. Lauren is saying it's too relaxed, and she falls asleep. And then she commented that she has to tense herself, do exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do in order to stay awake. So this is why you have 4 different asana positions to choose from. And so Lauren is starting from a place where she's already relaxed. And so you have these 4 positions. So what you do is you choose which one of them you're going to use for meditation in this next session, your meditation session based on what you need. Do you need relaxation or clarity? So that relaxation means, is my mind distracted? Or am I feeling physically tense? The reason that you need to relax your body is because a relaxed body is correlated with a mind at ease, right? And we all know that. There is a deep fundamental connection between the mind and the body. And you can use the mind to relax the body or the body to relax the mind. And so what we're doing is relaxing the body because because it's correlated with relaxing the mind. Which means a mind at ease, which means you have to have a mind at ease in order to not be distracted. So this is what relaxation is in support of stability. But that is a continuum also, because you have stability, or meaning that you are staying out of the ditch of excitation, but over here on the other ditch we have dullness and drowsiness. So we're trying to steer a course the middle way between these two. And so Peter and Lauren just described the two ditches to us. One of the things that people frequently comment on also is that they were feeling a little drowsy when they started and were feeling a little trepidation about trying Shavasana. But after that brief meditation of balancing relaxation and clarity, they felt totally refreshed. Anybody feel that? Yeah? This is really an interesting thing to discover. And for a lot of people, if you discovered nothing else out of this weekend than that, it would be worth it. Once you really get the hang of this, and we'll be talking the rest of this evening about deepening relaxation on the exhalation and reviving your brightness or clarity on the inhalation. But when you get the hang of this, of being deeply relaxed and maintaining your clarity, what people typically report is that a brief meditation like this is as good as 2 to 4 times the amount spent napping. And so if you're feeling drowsy, after lunch, mid-afternoon, evening, and you're beginning to feel that crash, that's an excuse not to meditate, even to do a 5-minute meditation, right? Because I'm feeling drowsy. Now, guess what? It could be an excuse to meditate or a reason to meditate. Why? Because you can refresh yourself by balancing deep relaxation with clarity. I have a good friend in New York who works in the fashion business, and it's not Rosa, who, after learning this technique 2 months ago or so, he wrote to me and said, "Wow, this afternoon was flatlined, ready to leave, and then shamatha for 5 minutes. I'm back, better than ever. This shit works." So this is an amazing skill, because what you begin to appreciate is that dullness is fairly easy to remedy in your meditation, unless you're sleep deprived. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if you just are having an ordinary, you're just becoming, in one of your cycles of the day, you can really deal with that fairly easily. And that's good for, you begin to then have an option of doing a double shot of espresso, or meditating for 5 minutes. And, so experiment and see which it is that really works, and it's interesting. I used to, meditate only except out of retreat, because I used to have an active working life, go to work and work long hours. So I would meditate in the morning and then, forget about, come home tired at night and, forget about trying to meditate at night. Now, times when I would used to be most dull, which would be after lunch, mid-afternoon, and evening, are now some of the best times to meditate. Why is that? Because dullness, if you can get this balance of deep relaxation and clarity and reviving, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but reviving clarity on the inhalation, dullness becomes pretty easy to deal with. And so this is why dullness is in the right ditch. And we travel in the right lane, closer to dullness. So we stay closer to dullness rather than closer to excitation, because dullness is something that happens incrementally. It begins with a laxity of your attention, and then progressively you begin to fall asleep. You become drowsy. But you can notice it, and so it's an easy thing for watchfulness to catch. And then when you catch it early, you can apply the remedy of just focusing on tactile sensations of the inhalation, and that will revive you. Excitation, over here in the left ditch, is a different story. So excitation is said to come in 3 degrees: coarse excitation, medium excitation, and subtle excitation. There are 3 degrees of dullness over in the right ditch also: coarse, medium, and subtle. Coarse, so we'll describe first of all coarse dullness over here in the right ditch. You could say that is like tuning into 91.5 on your radio station here in, what neighborhood are we in? Culver City. And you're driving out to Barstow or somewhere out in the desert. And as you head out there, you get beyond the city limits, and you reach a point where the radio signal fades out altogether, or it's only static. So that's coarse dullness. Your attention contracts into itself, and there's nothing there. You basically have lost consciousness, or you are not lucid any longer. You've lost your object to coarse dullness, but there's no signal whatsoever because you're out in the boonies, So coarse excitation then is just the opposite. You tune your radio station to 91.5, which let's just say it's your chosen station. Let's just say that it's National Public Radio Jazz or something, that you like that. And you're headed up to Santa Monica rather than to Barstow. And so there are a lot of competing radio stations, I would guess, between, from in Los Angeles. So you don't change the dial, it's still 91.5, but you head north to Santa Monica, and instead of NPR Jazz, what you get is Rush Limbaugh. So the signal, your chosen object, has been replaced by an unchosen object. And it replaces it entirely. So that is coarse excitation. You lose your object to an unchosen object. So what is the experience of 2,500 years of meditators? Actually, there's a distinction between excitation and distraction. So excitation is the most common, and what this is said to be is a desirous object. So it's either, and what is it going to be? We're talking about the ruminating mind now, right? So it's either a memory of the past, a fantasy of the future, and a desirous one. So some great memory from the past. Right now I'm thinking about these autumn days at Tahoe that I just left behind. And I'm also thinking about how I can't wait to get back there in mid-December, and hoping that, I can start using my season pass immediately the day that I get back. So it's one of those things. It's a great memory of the past or a great fantasy of the future. So this is what is said to take us most often and for the longest period of time. How long can these things take us for?
Hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's just say you have a 24-minute meditation session or an hour meditation session, because I have a lot of experience at this. You have a 1-hour meditation session and you have 50 minutes of distraction, and it could be, so what happens is I call this being shanghaied. In Sacramento, there's a plaque in Old Sacramento on one of the bars there that describes the Chinese miners coming in to trade their gold dust for whiskey. And then when they would, get so loaded and run out of gold dust. And so then they would be, fall asleep on the bar. The bartender would throw them through a trap door behind the bar. And then they would be clubbed on the head or given some other drug or more whiskey or something. And then they would be put on a ship down the Sacramento River to San Francisco and then on their way back to China. And they would wake up on their way out back to China having been shanghaied. So that's the origin of that term. And that is exactly what happens to us with our distractions, right? It's as if we are being kidnapped and we wake up on the corner of, let's say Barstow, and we wonder, how the hell did I get here? Because all you can remember is the last image of this train of associations, like a dream, right? Because you have been non-lucid for this entire, let's say, 10 minutes of distraction. And you come to, it's as if you come to in the hold of a ship, and you wonder, how did I get here? So that's being shanghaied. So this is what we are going to be training ourselves to do, to stay on our chosen object rather than to be shanghaied by fantasies of the future or the past, or to be falling asleep. So staying out of the left or right ditch. So how do we do that? We need to do that. So I said we train our attention by taking advantage of this fundamental fact of the mind that we are going to, the mind can only be aware of one thing at a time. So we are going to choose an object to anchor our attention. So we are going to anchor our attention with a chosen object. Which object are we going to choose? We could choose any number of objects, but there's one that is especially recommended. And that is the breath. So this is, the Buddha recommended this, and Arya Sangha also recommended this. There are countless people that recommended this, but these are for people here who have been using other objects to try to anchor their attention. And maybe not having such good success. I was just corresponding with somebody who was in this situation 2 days ago from Diamond Mountain, and had to give them this news also. So what is the Buddha said, the best object to anchor a ruminating mind is the breath. This is what Arya Sangha. So whenever you're on the debate ground and you need to invoke an authority in wisdom, you bring up the name of Arya Nagarjuna, right? If you your argument is about wisdom or about method, you invoke the name Arya Sangha, right? So this is what Arya Sangha, just in case any of you end up on the debate ground with a Gelugpa who says that the breath is an impure object. This quote from Arya Sangha: if involuntary thoughts particularly dominate your behavior, then focus the mind in mindfulness of the exhalation and inhalation of the breath. Well, what about Pabanka Rinpoche in the quiescence section? Because he goes in great detail about other objects to focus on. But he says this also, quote, "Those who have trouble controlling discursive thinking should focus the mind on the breath." And he, in fact, called it the forceful method for stopping excitation. So it's so don't worry about choosing this, because this is the experience of 2,500 years of meditators, and the great voices from Nalanda University all said the same thing. If excitation is your problem, anybody here fall into that category? 99.999% of all people who try to meditate, excitation is the issue. You can't keep your attention on your object because you have been shanghaied. So the breath is really a great, according to the experience, based on the experience of 2,500 years of meditators, the breath is a great object. It's a very good object for two reasons. One is that it's stable. So it's the same it's constant enough so that it's the same object at time 2 and time 3 as at time 1. So watchfulness, when it checks in, can tell you, you are on your object or you are off your object, because it knows what the object is. Right? So is it the same object at time 3 as at time, or we should say time 7 as at time 1? And if it is, you are still on the road, or I should say you're not in the left ditch. And if it's not the same object, then you are in the ditch, and then watchfulness sounds the alarm. So it's constant enough. That's a very valuable thing that you don't have, for instance, in open choiceless awareness. So the meaning that you're just aware of everything you're training to be aware of everything that's going around, constantly changing objects. So the breath is constant enough so that it helps, and what does this do? It supports stability. So the other aspect about the breath that makes it such a good object to choose for training in stability is that it is ever changing. So it's a very engaging object. The beginning of the in-breath is different than the end of the out-breath. The beginning of the out-breath is different. Did I say that, the out-breath first? The beginning and the end of each breath is different. Every breath is different from the previous breath. It's alive and ever-changing. So it really engages your attention. So you could choose a rock, and actually Padmasambhava suggests this for the very first of the progression that he goes through, because it's a very constant object. But that can promote or lead to dullness quite quickly. So the great thing about the breath being an ever-changing object is that it engages your attention, and that engagement then enhances clarity. So the breath is really a good object for promoting both stability and clarity. So what does it mean then to say that we are watching the breath? The one thing that it doesn't mean, which you might get the impression from that term watch, is that it is not a visual image. And there are plenty of practices, where we do that. There are certain pranayama and vajrayana practices where we do that. We have visual image of the breath. But this is not it. When we say focus on the breath or watch the breath, what we are focusing on is tactile sensations. And what we are focusing with is the breath. So we are focusing on tactile sensations of the breath. And so what we are doing is training bare attention. And bare attention means that you are focusing only on a single of the 6 sense fields. So in Buddhism, we talk about there being 6 senses, the 5 physical senses, and then the domain of the mental also is a sense field. And so what we're doing is focusing on only one of the sense fields. And what you begin to notice then, and the sense field that we are choosing is tactile sensations. And what you begin to notice then is that as you are training bare attention and focusing only on tactile sensations, attempting to, you begin to notice how even in your experience of your own body, your world is so largely conceptual. It's dominated by this sixth sense. So even when I say watch the breath and focus on tactile sensations, you might be able to do that for a breath or so, and then all of a sudden you have a conceptual overlay on the breath. And you're focusing on a mental or a visual image of your nose and focusing on a visual image of the air entering your nose and going into your body and then leaving your body. So it's like one of those subway maps where, you know, the lights come on for the next stop, you know. So we have that relationship with our own body. And then so I told you the story last time of the story of Bahia, who walked up from, shipwrecked sailor who walked up from the southern tip of India to find the Buddha up in northern India. And when he finally found the Buddha, he just asked, how do I become like you? And how do I become awakened like you? And the Buddha answered him, O Bahia, in the seen there is only the seen. In the heard there is only the heard. In the felt there is only the felt, etc. So what he was doing was saying, focus with bare attention. And that's what we are training ourselves to do by focusing on tactile sensations. And for Bahia, because it said in that sutra that he had very little dust in his eyes, that was enough that he became instantly liberated. He became instantly liberated by focusing only on tactile sensations, focusing only on one sense field at a time. And then what we are doing also when we are focusing on tactile sensations of the breath is so we talked about settling the body in its natural state. And then we are also going to be settling the breath in its natural state. And so this means that we give up all control of the breath and let the body breathe itself. So this is the opposite of pranayama. So pranayama, there are many, many pranayamas, and I over the course of my practice, I have done many, many scores of different pranayamas. And you can have ratios between inhalation, suspension, and exhalation. You can try to inhale for 30 counts, suspend your breath for 30 counts, and then exhale for 30 counts, So it's all or 2 counts or 3 counts or whatever. But you are regulating the breath. One of my first deer meditation teachers at Diamond Mountain gave me this beautiful instruction of really focusing on the heartbeat under the eyelid or in the eyelid, and then using that heartbeat as a metronome to have 5 counts of inhalation and 5 counts of exhalation. So this was a way of slowing the inhalation and exhalation and equalizing the exhalation, especially because usually the exhalation is rushed and shorter than the inhalation. So we're not doing any of that. What we're doing is giving up all control of the breath, settling the breath in its natural state. And this is not so easy, is it? Effective managers especially really have a problem doing this. And I would, in retreat, 10-day retreats, when we're doing shamatha practice, I have meetings with people, and they will say after the 6th day, the most difficult thing is just settling the breath, giving up control of the breath. The breath is something that is very easy to control. It's affected by moods, by muscle tension, by a flash of anger, whatever. Your breath is affected by that. And it is very amenable to the ego also. So the ego, anything that can be controlled, the ego will try to control, right? And so the breath is an easy thing to control. So that it's what we are training ourselves. So in these very, very basic instructions, we are getting very profound instruction that is going to lead us to more advanced techniques. These are very fundamental skills. We are training ourselves in bare attention, which is going to take us into the higher stages of our meditative concentration. And then we are training ourselves also to surrender to the moment. Because if we are to the present moment of experience, which is going to become very important tomorrow, and in settling the mind in its natural state, the shamatha practice. Because when you are trying to control the breath, your implicit statement is there's something wrong with the way the breath, with the way the body is breathing right now. Or I don't like it, or it could be better, or there's something, that I can do about this, right? So luckily, we don't have to have conscious control of our breath, or all of us would have, died a long time ago. The body is a great authority on breathing. And so what we do is we just give up all control of the breath, and guess what? We then just notice what's going on. And then, one last thing before we jump into this. So we said that the Buddha, Asanga, and other great Madhyamaka and Madhyamika masters said that the breath is a great object to choose for anchoring your ruminating mind. Now what we are going to do is we are going to choose which tactile sensations that we're going to attend to. So all of these, basically all of shamatha practice, you could say exists, almost everything we're going to be talking about exists on a continuum of coarse to subtle. And so what we are going to do is begin our practice with very coarse tactile sensations of the breath. And that will be, so the place that we're going to choose to focus our attention is going to be tactile sensations of the breath at the abdomen. Because these are coarse. They're meaning that they're easy to find, especially in Shavasana, in the supine position, on your back, because the abdomen is rising and falling. So this is easy tactile sensation to find. If you are focusing on the abdomen, when you are in the sitting position, it's a little more difficult because it's not quite so coarse. When you are sitting, you're going to have a slightly engaged Uddiyana Bandha. And so, it's not moving up and down in such a pronounced way as in Shavasana. So it's a little more subtle. So we're going to work first again. I'm going to invite you to use the supine position or Shavasana again, and then we will we'll discover these tactile sensations these coarse tactile sensations of the breath at the abdomen. And so if you need to take a short break now to use the restroom, go ahead and do that, but we won't take a formal break because the night is too short to get through everything I would like to do. But go ahead, if it's going to distract you during your meditation, go ahead and take care of that, and the rest of us then will get into Shavasana and find your position. And Lauren, you can stand if you want.
If everybody hears me go,
Begin by withdrawing your attention from the room and giving up all rumination of the past and the future. And give your full moment-to-moment bare attention to tactile sensations within the domain of your body. Noticing first that feeling of solidity and firmness where you're contacting the floor. Try to keep as still as possible throughout this meditation in support of a still mind. First of all, we establish the base of relaxation by noticing tactile sensations. Notice these wherever they arise throughout the body. And if among these sensations you notice any tension or any pain, let your breath be drawn to it and then release it on the next exhalation. Deepen your relaxation on every out-breath as if with an inaudible sigh. Notice the amount of clarity that you have at the beginning of your meditation. And if you notice that that is diminishing and you are sliding towards dullness and drowsiness, brighten the quality of your attention on the inhalation. Balance deep relaxation while maintaining the clarity that you have at the beginning of your meditation. Now take 3 deep, full breaths and notice tactile sensations of the breath. And now we begin to anchor our attention by really choosing a target to focus our attention on. So give your moment-to-moment bare attention now to tactile sensations at the abdomen. And simply notice the rise and fall of the abdomen as the air enters and leaves your body. Focus only on tactile sensations. Bare attention. And notice whether you are overlaying a conceptual map onto this experience. If so, discard that conceptual map as a distraction on the next exhalation. Settle the breath in its natural state by giving up all control. And simply notice whether the breath is shallow or whether it is deep. If the breath is shallow, you may notice only the abdomen moving. If the body draws a deeper breath, you'll notice the abdomen and the diaphragm moving, both. And if the body draws a very deep breath, you'll feel the chest expanding also. Simply notice. And now, using only these tactile sensations at the abdomen, mark the beginning and the end of each in-breath and out-breath. Continue releasing and relaxing all the way through the end of the out-breath until the in-breath spontaneously begins again. It's as if the weight of the atmosphere fills your lungs. Focus only on tactile sensations. Let that be the one thing filling your awareness. If your attention is distracted by some noise, or a thought of the future, or a memory of the past, simply note it, release it, and return to your chosen object, these tactile sensations at the abdomen. Deepen your relaxation while maintaining your clarity. So you can expand your awareness again to the room. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch your arms and legs. And roll over to your right side and return to your seat. Were you able to anchor that ruminating mind with the sensations of the breath? Does that work?
Yeah, it's better than the last time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Were you able to maintain your clarity while you were deepening your relaxation? Yeah, it's, late at night, Friday after a long week, and you're being introduced to a technique of training.
Interestingly enough, I'm more refreshed now than I was 30 minutes ago.
Ah. The whole progress of shamatha, as I said, is from, continuums of coarse to subtle. So these coarse sensations are very good for relaxation. So let's just say you have had a performance review, either at work or from a relationship or something, you know, from a partner in a relationship.
It's called anniversary.
What was that?
I said that's called an anniversary.
Oh, an anniversary. Yeah, so you've had your anniversary performance review, and you're trying to meditate. And naturally what you are doing is rehearsing everything he said, she said, and you can't get it out of your mind. But it would be nice if you would prefer that you could. So again, this is not an excuse not to meditate. This would be a reason perhaps to meditate. If you could actually do that, if you could anchor your attention with a chosen object. So what you would do is choose a very relaxed position, Shavasana, and you would choose a very coarse object, tactile sensations of the breath at the abdomen, because these are easy to find and they are easy to keep your attention. But this exists in a continuum, and you would choose that coarse object and relaxed position if you had just had the performance review, and relaxation and distraction were your issues. Now, if on the other hand you were beginning to fall asleep, because it's Friday night at 9 o'clock, you would do something else. You would choose one of these other positions in the continuum, and this is what we'll be doing next, is the seated position, because it is an asana position that supports clarity. And you would do something else. You could choose a more subtle object. So the more subtle object that we are going to choose now is again the tactile sensations of the breath, but we're going to choose a different location. We're going to choose the sensations of the breath at the tip of the nose or the rim of the nostrils. So we'll just say that for right now. So this has a very beneficial effect. Because you choose a more subtle object, you have to have more acute attention in order to find it at all. And so that more acute attention reveals a more fascinating object. So this then becomes a synergetic, virtuous upward spiral. Because you have chosen a more subtle object and it demanding more acute attention, it reveals a more fascinating object that holds your attention, this more fascinating object. This then promotes stability because you're not flying off to try to find a more fascinating object. And that then supports clarity because stability seems to produce clarity. Clarity is associated with stability. So that these then simply because you have chosen a more subtle object, you get the benefits of this virtuous upward spiral. And this is why tactile sensations are such a good object to choose, because they exist on this continuum of coarse to subtle. So a very coarse sensation is pain. It's a toothache, an earache, bone cancer, or something like that. These are very coarse sensations. They grab your attention and hold your attention. A more subtle sensation is the movement of the abdomen. More subtle is the movement of the breath at the nose. And then you get to very subtle tactile sensations. How about the movement of prana? That is a tactile sensation, you can contact that by developing what we call qualitative vividness, meaning that you can become aware of sensations that you aren't currently aware of, that are currently below your threshold, as you increase your qualitative vividness. And so most people have, when they are talking about movement of prana, what sense field do you think they are engaging? I would say conceptual. They're thinking about it. They have a visual map, and they're moving prana around on their visual map like a subway system. But the whole idea is to increase qualitative awareness so that you can become aware of these very subtle tactile sensations and actually feel it as a physical sensation. So this is that range of coarse to subtle. So these are tactile sensations, and you get this benefit only if you choose tactile sensations. Because visual, it's there or it's not. It's not, it doesn't exist in the same way on that continuum of coarse to subtle. Choosing a visual image, a mental image also, doesn't have that same beneficial effect. So tactile sensations are a very good choice to anchor your attention because of that. You get that synergetic upward spiral, because it demands greater acuity. So at times then, this more subtle tactile sensation, as our mind becomes more quiet, can become so subtle that we can no longer feel it. Because you'll notice that as your mind becomes more quiet, the volume of your breath becomes smaller and smaller, and your breath can become very shallow. So that produces much finer, more subtle tactile sensations at your nose. So what do you do then? If you can't feel your breath any longer, do you take a deep breath so you can feel it, or just imagine that you can feel it with a visual image or something? What you do is recalibrate your acuity. So if you can't feel your tactile sensations any longer at the rim of the nostrils, recalibrate to the pause when there is no movement of air, the pause between the exhalation and the inhalation and the inhalation and the exhalation. And then notice the first movement of air again. And so you just kind of set it, to zero, and then it just becomes, you'll notice something as the air moves. So here's something else that we've been discovering in recent retreats. So when I talk about the rim of the nostrils, it's like there's a whole circle there. What we generally, so experiment with this, because all these are hypotheses, all of these meditation instructions are hypotheses for you to experiment with, and what counts is the truth of your own experience. So what you may notice is that the place that is most acute in the nose is right here in the corner of the nose, where the nostril meets the upper lip. So, try focusing on that. And the tactile sensations you may experience will be, movement of air, could be difference in temperature. The inhalation is most places, and right now it will be cooler on the inhalation than the exhalation. If you're in Arizona in the summer, it might be warmer on the inhalation than the exhalation. But the tactile sensation you may experience would be heat or coolness, movement. It could be moisture also, slight, moisture there. What we have done, what we have experimented with also. So One of the other, so here's, I'm just going to go right to the punchline also. You may notice as your mind becomes quieter, so it's said that you can focus on tactile sensations at the rim of the nostrils, so what I'm saying is the corner of the nostril, or the upper lip. So what upper lip are we talking about? Is this the lip that you kiss with and put lipstick on? No, it's right up here, right below the nostril. There's a very sensitive patch of skin there. So it may be your experience that you don't notice that until your mind becomes fairly quiet. Goenka, in his retreats, would say you focus on the rim of the, first the, couple of stages, but the rim of the nostrils, and then about day 6 of a 10-day retreat, you'll begin to notice then, as your attention becomes quieter, the upper lip. And then when you do find the upper lip, wow, it's like neon, but I don't think you have to wait that long. If you really focus on the upper lip, I think you find it pretty quickly. And then it really holds your attention. What you may notice is that you notice the inhalation more. If I had time and would diagram this, you may notice the inhalation as kind of constant sensation from beginning to end. But the exhalation would be most prominent at the beginning and then taper off, and then you would find a pause, a long pause, like a big pause with no sensation at all, and that feels like the end of the out-breath, but it very well could be that you have just lost sensation, and that there is actually, you are still continuing to exhale. But unlike the inhalation, so experiment, just notice this, whether this is the case or not. The inhalation is more steady sensation. The exhalation is more like that, and then you lose it at some point. And so there's a fairly long pause between exhalation and inhalation, but there's a brief pause between inhalation and exhalation. Just notice whether that's the case or not, and then whether, I wonder if I'm just losing sensation on the exhalation. Now, what you may notice is that if you focus on during the exhalation on the upper lip, that after you become aware of the upper lip, it's just like, wow, it's this huge area of sensation there. And it really holds your attention all the way to the end of the exhalation then, because it's such a large, vivid area. And then what you notice is that, all of that pause, that long pause between exhalation and inhalation, that was just dead zone, where I wasn't aware of sensation. And so I'm just, normally this would be, several days that before we give you this, but, this is 2.5 hour recap here. More recap then, we're talking, this is like time-lapse photography here of your meditation career in developing stability. So a few other keys then, just before we move to this next meditation of the more subtle object. The key to stability is the exhalation. So here's my radical hypothesis. You will never lose your object on the inhalation. So prove me wrong. You will always lose your object on the exhalation as you're relaxing your attention. So just notice whether that's the case or not. So if that is the case, then if you redouble your attention on the exhalation, and you succeed by staying, what you do is you focus your full attention on the entire exhalation by trying to find the pause the brief pause before the next exhalation. So you give yourself that target. I am going to get all the way to the pause. And if you can do that, you've got a free ride on the next inhalation, because you're not going to lose it. Then you redouble your attention again on the exhalation and find the pause, all the way. So the key to stability is the exhalation. And then you can count your breath if that is helpful. It may not be. It could be. You may find it just a distraction. But you can experiment with it and see whether it's helpful or not. If you have experimented with this in the past and found it a distraction, it could be because you were droning the count. 1, 2, 3, and you get to 10. So the practice is that you count to 10, and then you can, start over again, or you can count down from 10 to 1 or whatever. But frankly, I think if you get to 10, just give up counting. You don't need it anymore. But what you will likely find out if you do try counting is that you lose your count at 3, You never get to 3, But the droning is not the way to do it, because all you're proving is that you know how to count. So what you do, if you are going to use counting, is to punctuate the out-breath. Just 1, 2, 3. And then it doesn't become so, kind of intrusive that it becomes a great distraction. And then you can, it can actually support you by punctuating the final instant of the out-breath right before the pause. So that then gives you a target, right? The key to stability is the exhalation, following the breath all the way to the final instant. So this gives you a target then. I'm going to get to the final instant, and then I'm going to punctuate it with a count, 1. So that, you can experiment with that. Okay, and then one final thing. When you discover that you have been shanghaied, what is your reaction to, you have finally, how did I get here after 10 minutes? So you can try the strict dad who has become a dog trainer and tug on his leash and say, heel, get back there, stay, So that doesn't work and is counterproductive, and you're going to train yourself to hate meditation. I'm no good at this. Get back there, damn it. Oh, there I go again, Oh my God, it's, 10 minutes left in the session, there I go again. This sucks, I'm just no good at this. You're going to end up not liking meditation if you do that. And guess what? It's counterproductive. Because the problem with distraction is, guess what? Not being relaxed. So I said that being shanghaied is like being kidnapped, like being abducted. It's like somebody comes up with a chloroform rag behind you and throws you in the trunk. That's a start. But what actually you discover is, because this is a desirous object that has taken you off on this journey that you've been on, guess what? You have grasped onto it. And that's the problem, is the grasping onto it. So that, in order to, what you do then, when you discover that you have been shanghaied, is that you need to develop a new reflex. We'll call these the 3 R's. First of all, what you do is release your grasp on the distracting object. And notice the difference between the previous moment when you were shanghaied, which was non-lucid. You were cognitively fused, meaning you were unconscious, more or less. You were non-lucid. And now, when you release your grasp on that object, because you have discovered that you have been shanghaied, you are lucid. Notice the difference. So release your grasp on the desirous object, distracting object. So and then you return to your chosen object, which is tactile sensations of the breath, in this case at the nose or upper lip. And then the third R, so the first two R's are release, return, and the third R is to relax ever more deeply. Release, return, relax. And boy, doesn't that feel better than getting a tug on the leash and say, stay there, I told you to sit. Yeah, so it works a lot better, and you'll enjoy your meditation a lot more. And then, so we'll do this in seated posture. The just very basics of seated posture is that you can do this on a cushion or on a chair. So if you're sitting in a chair, don't sit back against the back. Come out to the edge of the chair. You can put a cushion on the chair. This helps to elevate your hips. And that helps you to roll forward, to roll your pelvis forward, and that keeps your back straight. The basic idea is that your spine should be erect. And that your position should be comfortable so that you can, as Geshe Michael says, park your body and that it doesn't become a distraction. If you're sitting on the floor, you can sit just with your legs crossed in front of you, or you can sit in Siddhasana, which is what Rosa is doing there with, one heel is touching your perineum, the bottom leg, and then the upper leg is in the fold of your calf and the fold between your calf and thigh. It's very stable. Master Swatmarama said this is the most important of all asanas. This then, your head is level, so it's not tilted to the left, it's not tilted to the right, it's not tilted back, and it's not tilted forward. So this elevation of the chin is really important. If drowsiness comes when you drop your chin. Just try this right now. Just close your eyes and very slowly lower your chin towards your chest. I'm about to start snoring right there. And then conversely, bring your chin back to level and then raise your chin towards the ceiling. I can just feel a scattering of my attention. So the idea is to keep your head erect, but your chin level. And so you can use this when watchfulness alerts you that you are becoming dull. You can try just raising your chin. Notice whether your chin is dropped or not. And conversely, if your excitation is just your big problem in this session, try lowering your chin a little bit. And then just the last thing about position is, in the 7-point posture, is saliva control. A lot of people have that issue. I keep swallowing, I'm distracted by having to swallow my saliva constantly. Well, you have no choice after the saliva is produced. You're either going to spit it or swallow it. So it's all about controlling the production of saliva, and you can do that with your tongue, the position of your tongue. So you just place your tongue lightly curled above your teeth, and kind of below the top of your palate and above your upper teeth. And that really controls the production of saliva. Okay, so we'll now try this more subtle object. We'll focus our attention on the more subtle object of the breath at the tip of the nose. So begin this session like every others, withdrawing your attention from the sights and sounds of the room and focus on tactile sensations only. Notice first that feeling of solidity and firmness where you are contacting the floor or the chair. And even the heaviness of your hands. All of these are emergences of the earth element. Firmness, solidity. This is very grounding. And then let your attention roam throughout the body, noticing tactile sensations wherever they arise. And if you notice any tension or pain, let your breath be drawn to it. And release it on the next exhalation, deepening your relaxation as if with an inaudible sigh. Notice the amount of clarity that you have. And if that amount of clarity begins to diminish, brighten the quality of your attention on the inhalation. Now, having established the base of relaxation and balanced relaxation with clarity, we begin to add stability by anchoring our attention on a chosen object. And that is tactile sensations of the breath at the abdomen. Notice with bare attention the movement of the abdomen as the air enters and leaves your body. And now in an instant, shift your attention to the tip of the nose and give your full moment-to-moment bare attention to tactile sensations only as air enters and leaves your body. Let your attention be a stable gatekeeper there at the corner of your nostrils, noting the passage of the air in and out, but remaining itself unmoved. The key to stability is the exhalation. Give it your full attention to the final instant before the pause of the next inhalation. You can count your breath if that is helpful, by punctuating the final instant of the out-breath. If watchfulness alerts you that you have been shanghaied, your reflex is to release your grasp on the distracting object. Return to your chosen object and relax ever more deeply on the next out-breath. Did you get a hint or an experience of that increased clarity that you can get from the more acute attention demanded by that more subtle object? There's a lot to say, I would like to say now. I'm really going to have to encapsulate this. So there are said to be 9 stages of developing shamatha. And it all starts with stage 1, where we are right now, where we are able to locate our chosen object and stay with it for a few seconds. So this is again why the breath is a very good object, because you can find it quickly. If you are using a visual image, it can be weeks really before you find your object. The second is that you are able to, which is quite a leap, is that you are able to maintain your stability on your chosen object, meaning you're not lost to coarse excitation for about a minute. That's a big, big leap. So this watchfulness, what is that exactly? So you could say that it is a corner of your mind that is checking in periodically at this stage to see whether you are in the ditch or you are, in either of the ditches of dullness or excitation. So it's kind of like a tow truck. It can't become your object, because that can become a distraction. So it's a corner of your mind, it's said, that checks in periodically. So what's the period that it's checking in? It's often said about every 7 breaths or so. It's going to check in. Are you in the ditch of excitation, or are you in the ditch of dullness? So it's like a tow truck. Oh yeah, you're in the ditch. We'll turn on the flashers and, alert, and then pull you out and get you back on the road. So that's not going to get you, that's, you can only go so far in your career if it's going to remain a sentry checking in every 7 breaths and say all is well, or call a tow truck. So something else has to happen. in order to get to, so at level 2, you are on your object for about a minute or so. So you may be able to, I don't know whether you're going to get there with a sentry. Watchfulness is a sentry in 1 minute. But definitely to get to level 3, where you are on your object 51% of the time. You're on your object more than you are off the object. So something has to happen. If your watchfulness is checking in every 7 breaths, there's no way you're ever going to be on your object 51% of the time. So something has to happen. You need an evolution of your watchfulness to make real progress through shamatha. And so your watchfulness needs to evolve from being a sentry to becoming a motion detector. And so this is going to alert you then so that you have been shanghaied not for 10 minutes, not for 5 minutes, but that you have just left your object. So it becomes a motion detector. And so when you do this, when watchfulness becomes a motion detector, then you can experience, in order to really reach level 3 where you're on your object more than you're off it, you have to experience this phenomena called patching the gaps. So this then means that you have been off your object a brief enough time so that you can kind of glide over the pothole and regain your object quite quickly. So how do you train your watchfulness then to become a motion detector rather than a sentry? So what you're doing now, we need to begin to call this then awareness. And so introspective awareness is a very apt translation of this term for watchfulness then at this point. So you train awareness. This actually comes out of cognitive science. You train awareness, what's important, by what you attend to. What you give your attention to is awareness then becomes trained that this is important. So after you've been shopping for the red Toyota pickup for 3 weeks and you decide this is it, all of a sudden every red Toyota pickup that you see on the streets of Los Angeles grabs your attention because you have been attending to it. Before that, you could be driving down the streets, walking down the streets, and awareness would not be aware of red Toyota pickups. But because you have been attending to them, your awareness just picks them up. Now they're all over the place. So you need to train awareness what's important. And you do that actually by adding a 4th R to the 3 R's when you have been shanghaied. So you continue to, the first R is to release your grasp on the distracting object. But then what you do is you add a 2nd R of rejoicing. This is a moment of sukha. I am lucid again. And what you'll notice is that this becomes really, really important. This is the most lucid. This will be your best moment of meditation. Is immediately after recovering from a distraction. So you don't ever have to worry or think about or fantasize what would real lucidity in meditation be like. This is it. And this, in the last retreat, I was just doing that. After recovering from a distraction, this is it. This is it. This is what real lucidity is like. And then your whole job is just to sustain it. So you're training by doing that, that moment of sukha. You're training your awareness that this is important. This is the stage I'm looking for. This is what I want to sustain. So alert me whenever there's movement away from that. So this is how you train your awareness, introspective awareness, to become a motion detector. This is it. This is it. I am lucid again. So you release your grasp on the distracting object. Notice the difference between this moment of lucidity than the previous moment of cognitive fusion, of non-lucidity. then rejoice, this is it, I'm lucid. Return then to your chosen object, and then relax ever more deeply again. So this is how you train your introspective awareness to become a motion detector. And you absolutely have to do that if you are ever going to get to stage 3, where you are patching the gaps. And then one last final thing. How long is your meditation session? Rebecca says, it's not 24 minutes, it's not 1 hour. The length of your meditation session is 1 cycle of in-breath and out-breath. So this is a really important attitude to develop for a lot of reasons. You know, for one, it's like amnesty for all of your distraction and dullness, you know, of the previous 20 minutes. You know, you have a fresh start. I am lucid again. I'm going to sustain it. You can have a beautiful level 5, level 6 session of meditation for 1 cycle of in-breath and out-breath. Also, you know, if you happen to have one of these things, you know, where you're timing your meditation and you are starting to think, did I actually push that button to start? Feels like the session should be over. And you sneak a look over there and, oh yeah, 2 minutes left. You know, if you regarded your session as 24 minutes and there were 2 minutes left, you'd go, okay, it's garbage time now, you know, it's over. You know, and start, you know, thinking about what your, you know, oatmeal, coffee, you know, work, whatever. If the length of your meditation session is 1 cycle of in-breath and out-breath, and you see, 2 minutes left, that is, I don't know however many sessions that is, but that's 20 sessions, and you go, oh yeah, you know, I've got 20 sessions left. You know, so, you know, there's that benefit. But when you really begin to think of your sessions, the length of your session is 1 in-breath and out-breath, you can begin to practice a very powerful technique called the Padmasambhava oscillation. And this sounds like a meteorological phenomena out in the Pacific, but it's not. What it is that you are increasing your clarity on every in-breath. And you are deepening your relaxation on every out-breath. And how do you do this? Do you focus on a visual image of a bright sun, or clarity, clarity, clarity? Relaxation, relaxation, relaxation. No, what you are doing simply is focusing on tactile sensations of the inhalation, and what you notice is an associated increase in clarity. You don't focus on the clarity, you focus on the tactile sensations, and you simply notice a brightening of your attention. You deepen your relaxation by focusing on tactile sensation of the out-breath all the way to the end, and you simply notice a deepening of your relaxation. So you're focused on tactile sensations. It sounds like magic, you know, so how does that happen? It's because of this phenomena of, remember we talked about last time, the vagal toning index. This is a basic physiological fact associated with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate increases slightly on the inhalation. That's right. On the inhalation, you're inhaling excitation because your heart rate is speeding up. Your heart rate slows down on the exhalation. So medical research published last January, big news was that of this discovery of the vagal toning index. And what that was the difference between the heart rate at the exhalation and inhalation, the greater the difference between those was associated with greater physical and mental health. More positive thoughts reported, and fewer common colds and fewer heart attacks and less cancer, correlated with vagal toning index. So what it appears to me that we are doing is that that you can, by focusing your attention on that, simply on tactile sensations, you can exaggerate that effect of the relaxation, the natural relaxation and the natural excitation or clarity of every inhalation and exhalation. That's what we're doing. And so what we're doing is focusing on tactile sensations, and you're getting the basic physiological experience of clarity and relaxation by doing that. So you do that, the Padmasambhava oscillation then, is you are increasing your excitation or your clarity on every inhalation. And what happens is when we go up on the high wire, and I don't have time to describe the entire course there, but when your attention becomes so finely balanced that it feels like the ditches are so close that, you start out on a 2-lane road, the ditches are quite far apart. You've got room for error, you can veer back and forth. But as the ditches get closer, you're on a 1-lane road, you have to pay more attention. You don't have margin for error. You can't be falling asleep. You can't be thinking about tomorrow or yesterday. When you are up on a knife-edge ridge, the ditches are closer and the consequences are greater. You're not falling asleep. You're not thinking about next week's date or last week's date. You're there. You're in the present moment. So what's the ultimate expression of that? The high wire. How close are the ditches now? 1/4 inch. So if you are on the high wire and practicing the Padmasambhava oscillation, you are inhaling clarity so much that it can knock you off into excitation, unless with the very next exhalation you are deepening your relaxation as an antidote to that. You're deepening your relaxation so much that it will knock you off into dullness because the ditches are so close, you're so finely balanced. And it's just this constant oscillation then between the ditches. And this gives the mind, the mind is always craving something to do. That's why it is going off into distraction. Craving something to do. What you're doing is giving the mind something to do because it is so finely balanced. It notices this very fine oscillation between very subtle amount of excitation, very subtle amount of dullness. So it's like the ocean washing onto the beach and then receding out again back into itself. It's this constant excitation, increase of clarity towards excitation, relaxation towards dullness. And that can just keep you so focused, so finely balanced, that you're experiencing something, a quality of all of it's said now when we get to beyond level 4 where you're no longer losing your object at all, there's this phenomena then of subtle dullness, or medium dullness and subtle dullness. The issue then becomes vividness, not clarity, but vividness of your attention. So is vividness a spice that you can add to your meditation? Go out shopping at, some market in wherever, some neighborhood out here. Go looking for it. I looked for it all over India. I went to every market there was looking for vividness, and nobody could give it to me, because it's not a spice that you add to your meditation. It sounds like that in the instructions. But vividness is a natural quality of the mind that you begin to discover as your stability increases. And you do that, this is the way that you maintain stability and discover extraordinary vividness then, is this having the length of your meditation session being just one cycle of in-breath and one cycle of out-breath, and one out-breath. So, we probably should just leave it at that. But you can practice this then, this was a real time-lapsed view of taking you to level 4. Focusing, so in this system, what we have been talking about basically now is all, until just the last few minutes when I talked about the Padmasambhava oscillation, has all been Theravadan technique basically, of the Pali Canon. This is what the Buddha taught, focusing tactile sensations of the breath and saying this is the best technique for developing stability. And stability is what the concern of the first 4 levels of shamatha, of the 9 levels of shamatha, are all about stability. But then you need to something else. Once you level 4, you're no longer losing your object altogether. But now you need to vividness. Vividness becomes the big issue. So at this fork in the road, then you can either continue to work on more and more subtle tactile sensations, and most Theravadan techniques would choose this. You focus on sensations of the breath in other parts of the body. And so you develop that qualitative vividness, so that you can begin to feel prana move in the body, etc. Or you can do something, so you can do that, just, work on refinements of tactile sensations. Or you can do what Padmasambhava recommended, that after you have developed some degree of stability, that you then shift to a more subtle object. I said that it's all a continuum of coarse to subtle. What's more subtle than, this sensation, or even sensation of the, breath in the fingertips? It's mental events. And so we're going to, there's a whole technique then, a whole domain of shamatha practice called settling the mind in its natural state, where you are evolving from still attention, I should say stable attention, to still awareness. And this is what we are, this is what settling the mind in its natural state is all about then. And this is what we will be getting into, with the settling the mind on Sunday. We'll be going into detailed instruction on settling the mind in its natural state as we explore Vipassana practice. So far what we have, this was just a recap of shamatha practice. How do you develop qualities of your mind that are stable and vivid? Tomorrow, the whole point of this weekend workshop is, what do you do with that mind? Once you have developed stable, vivid attention, what do you do? What you do is you do Vipassana practice. And that's what we're going to be doing all weekend. And so we're going to be discovering the truth of our experience in 4 domains. So we'll be talking about that, the truth of our experience of the body, the truth of our experience of our feelings, the truth of our experience of the mind, and then the truth of our experience of all phenomena. So this is what classic Vipassana practice is, and we will, in doing that, we'll be exploring this other technique of settling the mind in its natural state also. It's really exhilarating, extraordinary material that will give you an experiential, it has the power to give you an experiential, direct experience of these issues. That's redundant, isn't it? It will give you a direct experience of wisdom. That's what it's all about. So I hope you can come back tomorrow. Thank you for coming out tonight. I hope this has been a useful recap for those of you who were at the previous workshop or retreats. And for those of you who weren't there, it is everything that you need to get you into the Vipassana meditations tomorrow. So we'll be convening again at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Is that right? 1 o'clock tomorrow, and we will begin exploring this whole world of Vipassana practice. So thank you. Have a very good night.